Hello. Welcome.
You believe the deepest rift between a man and a woman is some lightweight cosmic joke. Men from Mars, women from Venus, forever fumbling with alien tongues. That is not the rift. The true wound is far colder. Two bodies lying side by side in the same narrow bed, drawing the same thin breath of night air, yet each mind locked inside a separate cosmos built from entirely different wiring. The pain is not that you fail to understand her words. The pain is the creeping, glacial recognition that the creature beside you processes existence through an operating system you were never issued. That every memory in her skull is carved not with the clean stroke of logic, but with jagged bolts of raw feeling. That every sentence you speak passes through filters you cannot see. Filters that inflate emotions you never meant to release and archive echoes you believed had dissolved into nothing long ago. This is not a mere relationship difficulty. This is a biological and psychological canyon so vast that to stand at its edge is to feel vertigo. And your unawareness of its depth is not innocent ignorance. It is active collaboration in every recurring explosion, every frozen silence, every instant you have stood accused of offenses that, to your own memory, never took place. The first unforgiving law is not about arrival, but about the long, aching approach. Most men imagine that female satisfaction is anchored in the prize itself. The gift unwrapped, the summit reached, the orgasm achieved. That is a shallow reading. The female nervous system is engineered for a darker, more intoxicating reward, the prolonged, exquisite suspense that precedes the prize. Call it the hunger of anticipation. The true chemical fireworks do not explode when the thing is finally possessed. They flare brightest during the slow burn of possibility. The vacation is not the fortnight on white sand. It is the winter evenings spent poring over photographs of foreign streets, the endless scrolling through reviews, the private construction of a perfect future in the mind. The love affair is not the comfortable routine of years. It is the early months of electric uncertainty, the deciphering of cryptic messages, the heart slamming against ribs while waiting for footsteps on the stairs. This is not whim or preference. This is documented neurology. The end point is merely a dot on a map. The journey toward it is an entire galaxy of branching futures. When you transform a relationship into a predictable timetable, when every mystery is solved, every surprise scheduled, you are not offering security. You are enacting a quiet neurological amputation. You are switching off the very circuits that thrive on ascent, abandoning her on a plateau where the air is thin and the view is unchanging. The slow death of passion in long relationships is not mere boredom. It is starvation of the specific nutrient her brain was built to crave, the sustained, delicious torment of not yet. Next, consider the architecture of belief itself, a fortress constructed less from reason than from relentless repetition. Men often mistake a woman's acceptance of repeated claims as gullibility or weak discernment. That is a dangerous misreading. What operates here is an ancient survival algorithm known as the Illusory Truth Effect. When any statement, "You ask too much," "You are too emotional," real beauty looks like this. This behavior is normal in relationships, is repeated often enough by partners, by advertisements, by scrolling feeds, by the chorus of culture. The female brain begins to tag it not as opinion, but as established reality. Repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity is neurologically coded as safe, predictable, true. In ancestral environments, this was brilliant design. The women who quickly internalized the tribe's repeated warnings about poisoned berries or prowling leopards passed on their genes. Today, the threats are subtler, but no less lethal to the spirit. The repeated messages are psychological predators. You should settle. You are lucky to have him. Your anger is hysteria. After enough cycles, these phrases stop sounding like external voices. They become the quiet operating system of her self-perception. You are not debating a single viewpoint when you challenge these beliefs. You are attempting to overwrite thousands of layered imprints she may not even recognize as foreign. The deepest betrayal is not personal, it is environmental. Every culture that repeats a diminishing script is hammering another rivet into the cage of her authentic existence. Now we must descend into the territory of empathy, where virtue ends and biological burden begins. Men tend to admire female empathy as a moral achievement, a chosen grace. That admiration misses the exhausting truth. In the female brain, mirror neuron networks are not merely present, they are amplified, hyper-responsive. When you describe your frustration, your triumph, your grief, her neural circuitry does not merely register the information, it reenacts a version of the state itself. Her pulse may quicken, her cortisol may rise, her body may physically echo yours. She is not offering sympathy from a safe distance. She is, at a cellular level, inhabiting fragments of your emotional reality while still carrying her own. This creates profound intimacy, yes, but it also creates a relentless psychic load most men never register. She does not live one emotional life. She lives hers, plus absorbed shards of everyone she loves, everyone she listens to, everyone whose pain she witnesses. When she retreats into silence after a long dinner party or a difficult conversation, she is not withdrawing from you. She is performing an emergency separation ritual, attempting to disentangle the overlapping emotional frequencies before they drown her core signal. To demand that she remain fully available after such saturation is to ask her to carry your storm inside her own skin without respite. Her empathy is not boundless generosity. It is a physiological tax that leaves her depleted in ways the male nervous system rarely comprehends. From this constant pressure springs another fierce mechanism: psychological reactance. Men often label it stubbornness, contrariness, a perverse need to oppose. That label is lazy. Reactance is an ancient alarm system triggered whenever perceived freedom is threatened. The moment a boundary feels like a cage, however gently the bars are presented, the forbidden option becomes suddenly magnetic. This is not about the specific issue. It is about the principle of autonomy itself. For millennia, the female script was written almost entirely in negation. You may not own property. You may not speak in public. You may not choose your mate. You may not refuse. Modern restrictions, however small, however well-intended, land on that accumulated geological weight. When you say, you shouldn't wear that, you can't go out alone, you must forgive him, you are not merely expressing preference. You are, in her nervous system, briefly becoming the latest embodiment of every historical authority that sought to shrink her horizon. The resulting pushback is not petty disagreement. It is a visceral uprising against the entire inherited memory of confinement. Relationships do not usually end over the surface argument. They end because one partner repeatedly triggers this ancestral alarm, turning himself into the symbol of every force that ever tried to own her. Then there is memory, the territory where men feel most unjustly tried. You hear, "You said that hurtful thing 3 years ago," and think she is cataloging offenses with vindictive precision. That is not what is happening. The female brain does not archive events as neutral data points. It encodes emotionally charged moments with a richer, more durable pigment. The neural pathways for experiences laced with shame, fear, abandonment, or intense love are wider, deeper, more elaborately branched. The exact inflection of your voice, the way the light fell across her face, the precise phrasing that cut deepest, all of it is preserved in high fidelity within the medium of feeling. For you, that evening may have been one unremarkable Thursday among thousands. For her, it was a tectonic shift in the emotional topography that altered fault lines still active today. Your sincere, "I don't even remember saying that," is not gaslighting in intent, but it lands as confirmation that you were never fully inhabiting the same emotional universe. That moment did not register with equivalent weight in your neurology, therefore it faded. In hers, it glows like radioactive material. This difference is not chosen malice on her part. It is evolutionary bookkeeping. The women who vividly remembered which ally betrayed them in crisis, which tone of voice signaled danger, which situation endangered offspring. Those women and their children survived. Let us bury the flattering myth of female multitasking once and for all. Culture loves to celebrate women as effortless orchestrators of chaos. Career, children, household, social calendar, emotional labor, all juggled without breaking stride. This celebration is not empowerment. It is a trap disguised as praise. Genuine multitasking is neurologically impossible for any human brain. What appears as seamless juggling is actually rapid, costly task switching. Each shift requires disengaging attention from one context, clearing working memory, reloading the new context, a process that consumes glucose and generates mental fatigue. Female brains may execute these switches with slightly less visible friction due to practice and socialization, but the metabolic bill arrives all the same. The expectation that she handle everything without complaint raises the bar higher each time she succeeds until collapse is engineered into the system. When she finally falters, the cultural silence is deafening. No acknowledgement of the invisible tax, only quiet judgment that she has somehow failed at being superhuman. She is not a boundless engine. She is a mortal mind operating near the red line of cognitive capacity, paying an exhaustion for every context she is forced to straddle. Within her own psyche operates a brutally uneven tribunal. She will almost always judge herself by the purity of her intentions. I meant to be there. I wanted to support you. My heart was in the right place. While judging you by the cold evidence of outcomes. You didn't show up. You didn't call. You let me down. Conversely, she may excoriate herself for a single lapse with merciless finality, while extending endless compassion to your stated intentions despite repeated failures. This asymmetry is not hypocrisy. It is a profound empathy gap turned inward. She has full access to the swirling context of her own mind, but must often infer yours from observable behavior alone. The result is a lifelong internal courtroom where she is simultaneously the most lenient defender of others and the harshest prosecutor of herself. In the wider world, compliance is rarely simple virtue. From earliest childhood, the script for female survival has emphasized harmony over confrontation. Be agreeable, be helpful, do not disrupt, defer to authority. This conditioning is not superficial politeness. It is woven into the nervous system as a safety strategy. When a doctor dismisses her pain, when a boss oversteps, when a partner issues an ultimatum that feels wrong, the internal collision is violent. Instinct screams violation. Conditioning screams danger in resistance. The statistical probability that she will comply, even against her own clear judgment, is not evidence of weakness, but testimony to the effectiveness of centuries of socialization that equated female disagreement with social exile. Breaking that pattern demands more than courage. It demands overriding a survival circuit that has been told, across generations, that the price of belonging is the occasional sacrifice of truth. Consider also the invisible prison of sunk cost. Men often view a woman's refusal to leave a corrosive job, a hollow marriage, a toxic circle, as sentimental attachment or irrational optimism. The truth is grimmer. The more resources, years, emotion, identity, public commitment she has poured into any endeavor, the more psychologically expensive it becomes to abandon it. To walk away is to declare all prior investment null, to admit that vast portions of her life were built on a mistaken foundation. So the mind doubles down, investing still more in the desperate hope of retroactive justification. The past becomes a spectral creditor demanding compound interest in future suffering. True liberation requires the rare, brutal courage to absorb the loss, to look at the sunk decades and say, that investment is gone, and I will not bankrupt my remaining years trying to salvage it. Every day she remains, she is not honoring loyalty. She is allowing the ghost of expended life to dictate the terms of the life still available. The physical environment itself is never neutral. It is an active neurological participant. Color, light, order, space, these are not decorative choices. They are direct inputs into the autonomic nervous system. Deep reds and harsh whites elevate heart rate, prime vigilance, trigger subtle fight or flight. Cool greens and soft blues lower cortisol, widen peripheral vision, invite creative thought. Clutter is not mere mess. It is chronic low-level threat, narrowing attention, siphoning cognitive bandwidth into constant threat monitoring. A space that feels chaotic or hostile is not just unpleasant. It is a slow-acting poison that keeps the brain in survival narrowing. Conversely, an environment that signals psychological safety, no looming criticism, no sudden emotional ambush, allows the higher circuits to unfurl, to take risks, to imagine. You cannot demand brilliance, intimacy, or resilience from a mind whose surroundings keep whispering danger. And finally, beneath every argument, every gift, every logical victory, lies the single immovable principle that outranks all others. You may win every debate, provide every material comfort, construct airtight cases for your behavior, and still lose her entirely. Because what endures in the female psyche is not the content of your actions, but the emotional climate they create. The feeling is the memory. The facts blur. The resonance remains, etched into the same ancient pathways that preserve childhood terror and first love. A relationship is not a balance sheet of favors granted and withheld. It is a living tapestry woven entirely from emotional thread. You can be factually correct 1,000 times and still leave her inhabiting a reality of being unseen, diminished, quietly erased. That felt truth becomes the final verdict. On the other hand, a handful of moments in which she felt radically, undeniably seen, held in the full glare of your attention without judgment or agenda, can anchor devotion through years of hardship. The fight is never truly about the forgotten anniversary, the uneven division of labor, the sharp words in haste. It is about the deeper emotional message those things convey, that she is peripheral, tolerable, replaceable. You are not judged by what you intended or even by what you did. You are judged by the emotional world you caused her to live inside. This is the unsparing cartography of the female mind. Not a playbook for control, but a reckoning with difference. It is a continent shaped by evolutionary pressure and historical weight, where endurance often masquerades as strength, where memory is an emotional archive, where silence can be the exhausted retreat from carrying too many worlds at once. To deny this landscape is not harmless ignorance. It is the slow solvent that eats connection from within. The question left hanging is not whether you can memorize these truths, but whether you possess the stark courage to inhabit them, and the deeper respect to move through her reality without the blind arrogance of assuming it mirrors your own. The survival of anything worthy between you depends less on love than on that unflinching recognition.